Welcome once again to Retirement Designed Differently with 𝘁𝗵𝘀𝘁, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs right here in Minnesota. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Mr. 𝘁𝗵𝘀𝘁, what's on your mind this week? How you doing?
We're doing fantastic, and timing of retirement is on my mind this week.
Yes. I'd like to time it as early as I can.
Yes, yes.
Retirement timing, fantastic topic for today's program. Stick around, folks. We're going to answer a lot of your retirement planning questions. How do you get started? When do you get started? Is it ever too late to get started? What do you do with those retirement accounts, like your 401ks? And is that your retirement plan? All that and more on today's program. Great question to get started with. When do you, as a financial advisor, founder of the firm, when do you like to see people come into the office? Do you say, look, best way to start doing retirement planning is to wait that year before you're about to retire? What's the timing for you?
Yeah, well, the best time was when you graduated college. The second best time is probably right now. Because the earlier we can meet with people, if their retirement's 5, 10, 15 years out, the more we can help them prepare for retirement. So really the answer is as soon as possible to go meet with an advisor to figure out what is your plan of attack, and not only at retirement, but in preparing for retirement.
It's fantastic to have you as a resource. There's all different kinds of advisors. There's your accumulation advisor. It's interesting, though, to me, because I have seen, witnessed, used many different 401ks myself, but you don't really get the planning advice. You get online calculators, you get the access to the funds. There's usually an 800 number of somebody who doesn't know you at all, but it's not like dedicated planning advice. Here's how much you need to save. Here's what we want to do. Because it can be complicated. We've got our kids. In fact, what do you have? You have 9 kids now? How many is it, Billy?
We only have 4, so we're just one short of a basketball team, and we'll see if that comes around. But right now we have 4, 7 and under. But they are a ton of fun. So we live in the Stillwater area in Minnesota. We absolutely love it. We got a cabin up in the Wisconsin area, so we just really enjoy spending the time with our kids. And teaching them about money is also another thing that we try to do at a young age, because really people are undereducated on personal financial planning, and it's a real epidemic in this country that people are just ill prepared for retirement for many reasons. But the simple education on the fundamentals of financials is one of them.
Yeah. Let's not call out our high schools here by name, but I know this. I didn't take any sort of financial education class. I wish there was something available. I don't know if I would have elected it. How about you growing up? Was there anything financial education, or did you learn the lessons from mom and dad and the family?
Yes, we learned some lessons, and I learned some tough lessons, right? I had to pay off a big credit card that I spent a bunch of money in college, but I didn't know any better at the time because I wasn't taught, don't use those things,
I remember that, though. You went to those
purposes, right?
That first week of college, you were all lined up there. Yeah. You get your hat and your T-shirt, and you sign up on this $1,800 credit card that you have no means of paying it off.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we all learn our lessons over the years. And again, at Fundamental Wealth Designs, our acronym is FWD, so we like to look forward. We don't dwell on past mistakes or what happened in the past. We take a look at where we are today, where we want to be in the future, and we take a look forward when we plan ahead.
Okay, our viewers out there, what would be an ideal time to sit down with someone like you who does income strategies, retirement planning? Obviously, there could be some room for leeway, but what would be the ideal person to start retirement planning, in your opinion?
Well, I think there are trigger ages. So if you just turned 60, that's a trigger age to say now all of a sudden you have access at 59 and a half, but that's a weird age, so no one remembers it, right? We stopped counting halves around age 7. But somehow the government wants us to keep counting halves. So 59 and a half is an age. So if you're 59 and a half or 60, to make it easier, that's a great time to give us a call, because you're probably within 2 to 7 years of retirement. If you're 62, now all of a sudden you have access to taking Social Security for the first time. If you're 65, now all of a sudden Medicare tricks in, and that provides you with health insurance to and throughout retirement. At 67, you have access to full retirement age Social Security, and at 70 is really, that's sort of the later end of when people decide to retire. But still, if you're out there still working and you've worked till 70 because you wanted to maximize your Social Security benefit, it's not too late to give us a call.
Okay. And when we're designing wealth creation, we say the word retirement a lot, but it's really kind of creating wealth. It can be complicated. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Again, folks with families. How about those late 50s, though? How about somebody who's really looking for some direction? Is there a too soon to start the retirement planning?
I don't think there's certainly not a too soon to start retirement planning. Too soon to retire just depends on your particular situation, how much assets you have and how much you want to spend on a monthly basis. But we just helped a 55-year-old retire because they wanted to walk out the door on Monday. And if they wanted to walk out, or Friday afternoon is probably a better time to walk out the door, but they wanted to walk out the door on a Friday afternoon, and we helped them to retire because there are some tools, there are some sort of loopholes in the tax law that allow us to actually tap our 401ks and IRAs before 59 and a half. It's a weird thing, and I don't like to use jargon, but I'll tell and educate. It's a 72T, so you can actually take equal distributions out of your qualified accounts where normally you wouldn't have access to them until you're age 60, but we have tools and resources to do that without paying those pesky penalties that the IRS likes to give us.
Yes. All right. Well, we're talking today about the timing of retirement and how exactly you figure that out. I wanted to know, when do we start looking at, let's say, our asset allocations that we've been using in those 401ks? You've said before in many of your programs that a lot of folks, when they come to you, they don't realize how much risk they're taking. Maybe because they chose those funds 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and they've never changed those allocations. So when somebody comes in, or if somebody's watching the program right now, I mean, should they be looking back and say, hey, are you at least 60-40? You need to move over to safety? When do you change the asset allocation for retirement?
And as you approach retirement, it is important to take a look at your allocations, because a lot of folks that we see inside their 401ks or inside their portfolios, they're taking far more risk than they should, or far more risk than they need to. And if you don't need to take the risks of a possible 20 or 30 or 40% loss in your portfolios, why are you doing so? So one of the things we help people to understand is how much risk they actually need to take. You know, what is the risk tolerance? What is your risk tolerance, but also what's the capacity for risk? And if you don't need to take any risk, and we can provide you a retirement plan where you can retire successfully without taking a ton of risk, most people pick that option when we lay that out for them, to say this is a simple option that doesn't require you taking any risk and you can retire the way you want. And we provide, here are a couple different options, because we want, part of our process is providing you choice. This isn't about us telling you this is what you have to do in retirement. It's working with you and educating you on the different options available to you, and then putting your plan forward to retire successfully.
And that's what we do here for the viewers of the program, is that you can get your own no-cost retirement design. Call the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. It's going to go over to our secure call center, and we have operators standing by right now who will take your phone call, make an appointment for you to come in and see Billy. You can claim your own spot right now. For our viewers right here in Minnesota, we want to do your own retirement design. All you have to do, though, is take action. Call that phone number. More with Billy Voiles, founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs and Retirement Design Differently, when we get back right after this.
We've coined the term retirement design differently. People might ask, why and how are you actually different? Well, one, we are independent, take a fiduciary approach, and three, we take a completely holistic approach at the same time. Having those three things at our disposal allows us to build exactly the type of plans we want, and we do so by following a very sort of specific guidelines in doing so. So the first is we want to create a foundational income plan for you. You have to know where your money is going to be coming from in order to spend it. Second is minimizing taxes, because we want to pay the least amount of tax legally possible over the rest of your life. Third is we want to make sure that we maximize sort of that risk-reward relationship. We find a lot of people coming in, they're paying excess fees, they're taking too much risk for what they're actually getting in return. And then last, let's have some fun, because otherwise what are we retiring for, right? We still have to have that goal, that why of retirement.
Welcome back. You're with Billy Voiles, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs right here in Minnesota. And this is your Retirement Design Differently. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Today we're talking about the timing of retirement, and we had just mentioned those 401ks. There's wonderful organizations here. We've got 3M and Abbott and Boston Science, Cargill, Best Buy, Target, of course. But when do you move your 401k from one of those large organizations. I ask this because a lot of folks get comfortable with where their money is at. We get comfortable with anything we're doing in life. And they might think to themselves, well, I should just leave it there. I saw the money grow. I don't want to move things around. I already know how to log into that account. Do we need to move this as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think that the best thing to do is to analyze your particular situation and figure out, is the timing right? The timing would be right in scenarios where you really wanted to start taking advantage of tax planning. It's hard to do tax planning when you leave it inside your current 401k. It's hard to do Roth conversions. It's hard to spend your 401k. How are you going to spend your 401k if you need it for income? So when you roll that 401k into an IRA, you take control, and all of a sudden the doors open for income planning and tax planning. And we're not even talking about the investment opportunities. Just the income and tax make a big difference, but also now the whole world of investments is now available to you. So inside your 401k, you have limited allocations. You're usually limited to 15, 16 different allocations. That may seem like a lot, but we have hundreds of thousands of investments available to us, so 15 is really not going to cut it. Another thing that I want to mention is people don't think they're paying fees inside their 401k. They think, oh, my employer told me that there are no fees inside my 401k. And administratively, that may be true, but inside each mutual fund that you have allocated to, and you got to watch out for those target date funds, if you will, because those tend to have more fees stacked on top of each other because you're actually paying several advisors inside one fund in those scenarios. So you are paying fees inside your 401k, and if you'd like to find out more about what those fees may be, that's one of the things we help folks with.
And if it's an older plan and they're using mutual funds, I also want to ask the plan provider, why aren't you using exchange-traded funds? I mean, if you're using diversified S&P 500, 500 of the largest companies, if you're using diversified U.S. government bond funds and those, why are we using those mutual funds? We've seen the costs of 2 to 3% internally, where you can have exchange-traded funds at 0.02 to 3%. So knowing that efficiency is very, very important. We can do an analysis for you. When the number comes up, you can call that phone number on the screen, and we want to do that 401k analysis, your investment analysis, and we'll take a look at all of your investments as well.
And sometimes we do leave the 401k where it's at because it's in your best interest. So as a fiduciary, we have to do what's in your best interest first. So we have a lot of clients that are still working, and inside their 401k, they actually have good strategies that we can take advantage of that don't have those embedded fees. So if we have access to that and we can put you inside those that actually give you growth at a great rate for the purpose of what we designed it for inside the plan, then it simplifies things, because you can continue your payroll contributions and continue saving and investing into that 401k plan while you're still working. And then when you retire, then we'll move the 401k out. And that is one thing. If you're no longer with that employer, whether it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, that is a time where you really probably want to take control of that 401k and move it to an IRA, and then have the whole world of investing and the whole world of opportunity open to you, rather than leaving it inside that 401k and really having limited options, limited flexibility, no tax planning. If you have an old or a stray 401k that you left at a former employer, that's a great reason to give us a call.
Yeah, always, because sometimes those plans change. I mean, just like anything in business, they may move on to a different 401k provider. We know that TD Ameritrade and Schwab, they came together. I mean, so it might be somewhere else. We're not saying that your money is lost, but we want to make sure that you're trailing that with you. And we get it. If you're moving on to another job, you're like, oh, I'll take care of that later. But if it's been a couple of years, now is the time to do that. You want to make sure. But you were also talking about this. What would you say a ratio is when you see 401ks to Roth 401ks? I'm going to guess, coming into your office, almost like 100 to 1, right? Because for 4.5 decades, we've been saving in the tax deferred. Now, we know that almost 80% of 401k plans out there provide a version of the Roth 401k, but are you seeing people using them? And can we turn our current Roth or our current 401k into a Roth?
So they are becoming more and more popular, the Roth concept. And for that reason, Shameless promotion, Spike.
Well done here.
I wrote a book, to Roth or not to Roth, because that is the question. That is the question we are trying to answer. What makes sense when it comes to Roth? A lot of time we're talking about conversions, but what makes sense for your Roth contributions as well? Does it make sense for you to switch your traditional 401k tax-deferred contributions to a Roth? And I would argue in a lot of scenarios it does make sense, because you already have too much in the tax-deferred bucket that you're unaware of how much is actually going to be taxed on that you want some tax certainty inside your plan. You want some tax diversification inside your plan. And if you don't have different types of accounts, then you don't have that tax diversification. We really need to plan the best effective retirement.
And let's have this conversation, because the tax deferral, you've said it before on your tax program. I know you do it at the live events. We've kind of it's been beaten into our heads for almost 4 decades, save tax deferred. Oh, it's great. You get to subtract it from your salary. What you are doing here for your viewers is saying we might need to change that mentality and pay taxes now. That's the difference. Pay now, pay later. Pay now, pay later. The Roth is the pay now. Now, that's the hard part of it. But you could also do a 50-50 split, from what I understand. You can split it. You can put 50% into a Roth, 50% into a 401k. But let's say you're 58 years old. You call up your plan administrator right now. You find out there's a Roth. You've got tons and tons of money that's been in your tax deferred. Would you say that it's worth it to start even as late as your 50s or even early 60s to use this Roth 401k?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's worth exploring, because you're going to be faced with 25 more years of retirement. So if you can have an asset inside that 401k that'll be an IRA in the future that has tax-free growth for 20 to 25 or 30 years, and also provides you flexibility of income sources inside retirement, I think it's very smart to explore what that might mean to you inside your own plan. Because again, if all our eggs are in one basket, and it is the 401k tax-deferred basket, we see it all the time where people walk in and 70 or 80% of their total assets are inside their 401k, it has one method of taxation. So if we don't have brokerage and taxable accounts and tax-free accounts associated with that, we're stuck taking all of your income distributions from your IRA for the rest of your life. That's not a bad thing, but it could cause some significant problems down the road, because we don't know what taxes are going to be in 3 to 5 years.
I think we all believe, at least, they're not going to be lower.
Yeah.
If anything, it may be the same. We know they're going to sunset the end of 2025, so for reporting of 2026, our tax brackets probably go up 2, 3, or 4% to where they were before. And then how's that debt clock looking? Where are we with the debt clock?
I can't keep, it moves so fast I can't keep track of it.
Yeah.
But that is one thing. What he mentioned is the Tax Cut and Jobs Act is expiring at the end of 2025. So we have 2 more years to tax plan at the current rates that they are. And taxes are going to go up by 3 to 4% per bracket, and you're going to lose half your standard deduction. So if you want to explore tax planning in retirement with your 401k, then we need to take the steps in order to take control of that 401k and move it into an IRA. But what we're going to do is we're going to do this inside your retirement design, where we're going to explore your income situation, create a structured income plan, and give you really permission to spend your money in retirement. Then we're going to go through your taxes and figure out how to minimize the amount of taxes you pay, how to maximize those IRA distributions back to you in your pocket. Then we're going to look at your investment portfolio, how much risk you're taking, and is it appropriate for you? It doesn't matter what everybody else does. It matters what you are doing within your portfolio, your risk tolerance. Then we'll look at your estate and legacy and figure out if there is something left, how do we pass those assets to your beneficiaries as efficiently as possible. So all of that's wrapped in your retirement design. So give us a call today if you'd like to sit down for your first appointment with us. 888-371846. Again, that's 888-379-1846. 1846. We look forward to sitting down with you and learning more about your situation.
When you call Billy and you come in for your retirement design, we'll also give you the complimentary copy of his book, To Roth or Not to Roth. We know the taxes can be complicated. I've read Billy's book right here. It's informative. It's not overwhelming with tax numbers. It's more about the tax concepts. Should we pay taxes now? Should we pay taxes later? Folks, call that phone number right now. There's no cost. There's no obligation to start your retirement design. We'll probably sit down with you once or twice, get to know you, try to figure out what you want your retirement to look like. More with 𝘁𝗵𝘁𝘀𝘁, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs, right after this message.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. You can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Thank you so much for coming back to 𝘁𝗵𝘁𝘁𝘁 here, financial advisor and the founder of Fundamental Wealth Designs, and your retirement designed differently. We're talking about the timing of retirement. First of all, you have said this is a great time in America to retire. I think we're looking at interest rates, some of the safer money, where the markets have been, how they've recovered over the last decade or so. With Americans sitting on, I think it's something like $157 trillion in total assets here in the United States. How do we turn our families into the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the wealth transfer? I want to talk a little bit about estate planning. Is estate planning only for the ultra-rich, in your opinion?
If you want to pass your wealth efficiently to the next generation and also make it simple on your kids to inherit, then estate planning is essential in order to do that, to not leave all this work to be done and to have them go through probate and hire lawyers and pay all the expenses and fees. So estate planning is one of those things that we want to guide people through and help people through the process. So I'm not an attorney, nor do I want to be one, but we have some great partners in the Twin Cities areas that we help to refer you to and work and coordinate with in order to create your estate plans. But here's the one thing about your estate plan. The one thing I hear all the time, I just haven't got around to it yet. Right? You know in the back of your mind that you should do your estate planning and that it will set up your financials in the best situation to pass to the next generation. So my friend in Kansas City, he actually had a whole bunch of little wooden tokens created with the word "to it" on it. So then when his clients used to say to him, "Oh, sorry, Spike, I just haven't got around to it yet." Well, he'd take that little wooden token out of the desk, slide it across the table to him and say, "Here's your round to it. Now you got one. No more excuses. Let's get around to it."
And when people come in, how often do you see that they don't even have, and we're not trying to make anybody feel bad, but this is that procrastination, or this isn't that important. How many times do they not even have a simple will? And I'm talking folks who either have kids, they're in their 50s or you're in their 60s, do we even have that document the first time they come in your office?
Yeah, I'd say a third do and 2/3 don't.
Wow.
So a lot of folks, the majority of folks do not even have a simple will. Healthcare directives are super important to set up too. And then the trust is sort of at the end of it, but maybe a third actually have done the work. So if you haven't done the work, it's certainly something to consider to go get that taken care of.
And it's very simple. And for me, it isn't necessarily about tens of millions of dollars. I mean, just $100,000 transferred over to the kids properly is the start of a nest egg of something that they can do something with and compound. On the other hand, if you leave $100,000 to maybe a 21-year-old, you probably just got to ask yourself, what color is the Corvette or the Jeep going to be, right?
Yeah.
So that's maybe in part, what do we do with these assets and how do we make sure they transfer properly? Now, tell me, though, a couple of things about the will. That is not necessarily Well, I mean, it's relatively ironclad, but it's also a public document, right? This has to go through a process through the court system?
Absolutely. A will is basically declaring for probate how to push out your assets and to give the assets by your wishes. A trust controls so you have more control over what they do after the fact with a trust. So people have different desires. You know, sometimes they're okay just saying, just give it all to them and let them do what they want with it after the fact. Then a will might be right. But if you really want to control sort of how they will use those after you pass away, then you might want to take the next step in the situation. But this is all things that we discuss with you and figure out, all right, what are your desires? And then we work with our attorneys and our estate planning attorneys to figure out, okay, what is the right estate plan for you? And some of your accounts have named beneficiaries on them, and the will is actually, you know, secondary to that. Your qualified accounts like your 401k will pay to whoever that beneficiary is regardless of what your will says. So that's one of the things we sort of give as a yellow flag is check your beneficiaries and make sure that they go to who you intend the money to go to.
I think
we've all heard these
I know where you're headed with this.
Yeah.
Over 51% of marriages, unfortunately, in the United States have ended up in divorce. And if you don't change the beneficiary designation on either that life insurance or your 401ks, this has gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. Even if it's in your will, it says, I want it to go to my current spouse, or I only want it to go to the kids. Whoever is named in that account is a beneficiary. So do you start there with the beneficiaries, like, hey, let's do this quick review to make sure your money's going to where you want it to?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we discuss in our foundation meeting is where do you want the money to go when it's left over? And then we ask the questions. Are your current accounts naming these particular individuals, or perhaps do we have door number one mistakenly as the named beneficiary on there? So that is certainly something I think every advisor should go through the details of planning with you, along with, you know, talking about investments and everything else.
We're going to have to wrap it up today, but this was the timing of retirement, timing on estate planning. Again, do we wait for our late 60s or 70s? When do you like to start talking about estate planning, Billy?
I think you need to set up your plan as soon as possible, because you never know when that day is going to come, right? That unfortunately death knocks on your door, so you need to take care of it now and have those uncomfortable conversations now. But that's one of the things we want to do, is give you the plan to have that wealth transferred to the next generation as efficiently as possible.
Thank you so much, 𝘱𝗺𝘀𝗧. Folks, you can get your own retirement design right here. Call the phone number you see down on the bottom of the screen. Timing of retirement, it's your timing, but if you've never done it before, you want to work with a professional who does this every single day in their offices. You can work with financial advisor 𝘱𝗺𝗀𝘀 just by calling the phone number down on the bottom of the screen. Claim your own retirement design today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back next week.